Hello everyone, welcome to the official YouTube channel of vkgy. My name is Brifyjek and I am very proud to be the narrator for this video. If you don't know who I am, I have a YouTube channel of my own where I talk about vkgy stuff. vkgy invited me to work with them on producing some content for this channel. This video will be a bit of a test, so let us know in the comments if you would like to see more videos like this one. Without further ado, let's get into the video. At the dawn of vkei, the scene was ruled by two major forces. In the east, Ecstasy Records with bands like X and Lunacy, and in the west, Free Will with bands like Color and Kamaitachi. Hence the famous saying, Ecstasy in the east, Free Will in the west. Of Japan's so-called three major cities, the first was Tokyo, in the east, and the second was Osaka, in the west. Nestled between those two was the third major city, Nagoya. While the Tokyo visual scene was led by Ecstasy founder Yoshiki, and the Osaka scene was led by Free Will founder Dynamite Tommy, Nagoya had no such leader, until KAIKI. KAIKI was a bassist who founded the band Silver Rose in 1989. Like many bands at the time, they followed in the steps of Bowie and Baktik, playing beat rock and wearing makeup. Among the tiny visual scene in Nagoya, they quickly became one of the top bands, along with Vivian Lee and SAS4. While monster bands like X and Color passed through Nagoya during their national tours, Silver Rose frequently served as the opening act. Inspired by the strength of those bands, KAIKI began to take his own band more seriously, as well as his role within Nagoya. As Vivian Lee disbanded, Silver Rose absorbed their guitarist Koichi and began improving their technical skills. At the same time, SAS4 gave way to Garnet, which gave way to a little band called Kuroyume. Soon, Silver Rose and Kuroyume were known as the Big Two of Nagoya. Kuroyume quickly shot to stardom beyond Nagoya, thanks to their unique blend of violent aesthetics, theatricality, and positive punk/hardcore inspirations. Silver Rose, meanwhile, stayed relatively true to their beat rock roots. But KAIKI was not content with his band's path and wanted to go in a darker direction. And so Silver Rose disbanded in 1994 and KAIKI immediately joined a new band called Ruaju. At the same time, Silver Rose guitarist Koichi joined a band called Laputa. The trio of Kuroyume, Ruaju and Laputa would become the blueprints for a darker, theatrical style of vkei, which some fans later called Nagoya-kei. Nagoya-kei is a complicated topic that could probably be its own video. For now, suffice it to say that some fans do not consider the beat rock side of Nagoya to be Nagoya-kei, because those bands sounded the same as vkei groups from other regions. At the same time that he joined Ruaju, KAIKI felt that the Nagoya visual scene was in disarray, without a strong label like Tokyo and Osaka had. Having learned from his backstage interactions with larger bands, and fueled by a desire to show that Nagoya could be just as good as those other cities, he founded his own label, Noir. Noir worked in collaboration with Yenbania, a record shop that had transitioned from English rock to vkei due in part to the success of Kuroyume. Together, they would become the home of vkei in Nagoya. Many of the most popular bands in the region were signed to the label, including Ruaju, Fanatic Crisis, Romance 4 and Shizuku, and later Kuraoshisu, Rakushana and Jurei, among others. Noir was active from 1994 until 1996, when KAIKI surprised fans again by seceding from Ruaju just before their major debut. While there are various rumors as to why he left, he claims that there was no particular reason. He immediately joined the band v-kei, which was closer to the orthodox sound of Silver Rose than the dark style of Ruaju. According to KAIKI, he viewed v-kei as his last band, and he wanted to end his career with straightforward rock. At the same time, he closed Noir. Some remaining Noir bands were taken in by a follow-up label, Rizuru Mujiku, which was fully controlled by Yenbaya. Others stayed with KAIKI, following him to a new label called Soleil. Soleil formed in mid-1996, and its early roster included Kuraushisu, Jurei, Rakushana, Doroshia, and Delay, among others. It had little output during the period, and most of those bands had either broken up or transferred agencies within a year, so this period feels largely forgotten about. Despite being based in Nagoya, Soleil was less associated with Nagoya Kei, because its bands lacked quote-unquote darkness. And by 1997, the label wasn't even associated with Nagoya in general, as it moved its headquarters an hour away to Toyota and began signing bands from across the country. Here are just some of the bands that would be signed to Soleil at some point over the following years: Agito, Alpha, Bokyaku Hakusho, Kuraushisu, Delay, Doroshia, Doroshi, I4U, Geno, Jurei, Karakuri, Rakushana, Mari-An Burado, Fascism, Ramuru, Puresedia, Puera, Quarry, S, Serene, Sasu Vishasu, Peru, Bayoreto Narushisu, v-kei, Vasala, and Yura. As Soleil expanded outside of Nagoya, it also began opening sub-labels. Its first was an existing label, Matina, which had been founded by Kisaki in early 1997. The sub-label was renamed to Soleil Matina and would act as Soleil's Osaka branch. The many bands signed to that sub-label included Azarie, Dasuvasa, Destroy, Ezekieru, Kureimu, Lagna, Lavender, Labial, Ryumi Eru, Madisu Greiru, Mirage, Remaju, Sense of Shape, Veladona, and Vierju. Over the following years, Soleil Matina would prove to be the most successful sub-label, especially with regards to Dasuvasa, Mirage, and Madisu Greiru. It would revert its name back to Matina and become an independent label again in 1999. Soleil's second sub-label was opened shortly after the first. In December 1997, Soleil Imaju was established for Niigata bands. Its leader was Ryo of Deru Sukieru, now better known for Nine Goats Blackout and Hologram. Its bands were Deru Sukieru, Hysteric Blame, Birushana, and Ramuru, with the latter quickly moving to the main label as they became popular. As an aside, Soleil Imaju also sometimes acted as the office branch or design branch of the main label. In fact, many of the label's releases and flyers were designed by Ryo under the Soleil Imaju name. A third sub-label, Soleil Seeds, was opened for Nagano bands in 1998 by Claire guitarist Atsushi. However, it had almost no activity, with its only signed bands being Claire and Sepia. The main label started taking off in 1998, as v-kei disbanded, and KAIKI began focusing entirely on management. Riding the visual kei boom of the late 1990s, several of the label's bands became popular nationwide. The top two were Ramuru and S, but Mari-An Buradu, Vasala, and Virushana were also popular at the indie level. By the year 2000, the label had become popular enough to hold an event at the large venue Shibuya Kokaido. Unfortunately, As the visual-kei boom ended, Soleil got swept up in a wave of label closures at the turn of the millennium. Joining its former sub-label Matina and its similarly successful rival Key Party, Soleil closed its doors in 2002. As he had done in the past, KAIKI immediately opened a new label, Inner Dream Group. Soleil heavyweights Ramuru, S and Birushana all followed to the new label, each getting their own sub-label, Slit, Tulip Records and Virus, respectively. Another sub-label, Love Bazooka, was opened for Yura, and another, Bakchus, was seemingly opened for Antique Ballets and Masheri, but there are few details about this sub-label. Most of the aforementioned bands had turned into a non-visual direction by the time the label was established, and seemingly never reached their former popularity. All of them were disbanded by 2003, at which point the new label also likely closed. KAIKI made one final foray into label management in the late 2000s with Beast Beat. It had just a few releases, and its most well-known band was Gyaku Myu. It seemingly closed its doors by 2011. Since then, KAIKI has been officially retired, instead running a remodeling company. That being said, in 2020, he collaborated with former label-mate Kisaki to organize a charity event for Oharu, a well-known event organizer from Gunma. Although the event has been postponed several times, he has since been participating in occasional one-day revivals of With Sexy. The Soleil label has had a few revival events in the 2020s, with the latest being in 2025, but there has been no other activity from the label. Although KAIKI's time as a manager is done, his influence over the Nagoya scene through Noir, the Osaka scene through Soleil Matina, and late 90s visual-kei through Soleil is undeniable. For visual-kei fans who already know of Yoshiki in the East and Dynamite Tommy in the West, we hope KAIKI will be added to that list in the middle. If you are interested in learning about visual-kei from the 80s through today, check out the vkgy article A Brief History of Visual-kei. To learn more about Nagoya, check the subgenre article about Nagoya-kei. And if you want to support vkgy's mission, please consider supporting on Patreon. Big thanks to members of the Pro tier on Patreon: Biopanda, Chris, Deep, Emma, Candice and Laura, as well as to members of the VIP tier and of the Fan tier, whose names you can see on the screen right now. And I would also like to thank my Patreons, who you can also see on the screen. If you enjoyed my narration of this video, you can head over to my channel to watch more visual-kei content. Thank you vkgy for inviting me to collaborate with you. This has been Brifyjek, signing off.